welcome everybody. I am Ed Cruz. Welcome to the last lesson. And today we're going to look a little bit about the punch and not so much the physical aspect of the punch, but basically what you're gearing and gunning for. I know in the past I've talked about the punch, and when we practice the punch motion, why are we practicing it fully extended and in this manner? Because we need to relax all the joints, ligaments, and so forth in the arm so you can actually explode the power, okay? You can actually explode the power. So in the physical sense of that aspect, it's very simple. You punch, stretch, 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 over and over, right? Because you got to look at exactly what you're developing in the punch. People are thinking punch is like, I'm learning how to actually hit somebody. No, in actual application, when I hit somebody, I'm not going to be fully outstretched like this. When I hit somebody, I'm here. Then I can release the power and my everything's relaxed at that point. But you can't develop it. You can't develop that kind of explosive power when you're very tight. So in the physical aspect, I've covered that before. You stretch over and over again, and more detail into that later on. We're looking more exactly as far as I guess we're looking at it from a different perspective as far as why the punch is so significant in Wing Chun, right? There's a balance in knowing the punch, right? When you learn martial arts in the beginning, everyone's like, wow. You see the people demonstrate this 1-inch punch. I don't know what the fuck that is. Someone created a 1-inch punch. There's no such thing as 1-inch punch. You can touch with 0 inch and explode the power if you do it. And this is not something you ever practice and so forth. It's just from naturally just practicing a punch. You do it. You don't go like, Sifu, yes, day 1, day whatever, day 789. Can you teach me the 1-inch punch? No such thing, okay? So what I want to reiterate here is looking at what the punch, not in the physical aspect, but I guess basically more in the spiritual aspect, what it leads to. You remember, when we train in Wing Chun, why do we train? We train to trust, right? And then we train to trust, and that develops something within you. Because when you're learning how to punch, it's a learning process because you don't know what that punch can basically do. You're like, maybe it can hurt somebody, maybe it can knock somebody out, or maybe at a really high level where you can actually do it properly, it can even do worse, right? The thing is, that development is a kind of a balance where you're seeking the power, but you're also actually want to get to the point where you get the humility as well. Okay, so a lot of times people go like, okay, you get into a fight and you want to launch that punch. When you know, I always told to my students, when you know your punch can do what it's supposed to do, everything changes at that moment in time. It really does. It's things that maybe like regular people, it would bother you or throw you offset, or you get upset from something or a comment like that. It doesn't, because with that training comes humility with it as well, because you understand, like I've always talked to you about the balance of everything that you do in Wing Chun, that, you know, with great power comes that responsibility, right? Spider-Man like. But if you don't have that skill, you don't have that ability while you're training it properly, you'll be willing to launch that punch for who knows whatever reason. But in reality, if you're trained properly, you train to trust, you train to know, then at the end of the day, when you finally get to that point where you can actually launch a punch and you know the ramifications of launching such a punch, if you really done it right, if you really trained it properly, and if you really trust in what you've trained, you develop this sense of humility with that punch. Okay, you really do. And I think that's why you practice it. It's almost like something that, how do I say this? A lot of times you have that goal. I want to learn to punch. I want to do the punch. The punch is not a difficult thing to learn, right? It does require the stance. It does require the proper motion, and you can actually learn to punch and make it quite effective. But learning the physical aspect is one thing, but learning as well the mental and spiritual aspect of it is another. And I really think that you'll start to know this in the training process. First, you feel okay, looking for that coordination of the punch. Then you feel like, this could probably put some hurt. And then eventually you feel almost like a fear of it, that you're like, this is actually, you're given like, who knows, what is that? You're giving such an amount of power, and it's placed in your hands, and now it's your responsibility to do right with it, okay? Because like I've always said, yes, you do Wing Chun or you use self-defense as the very, very last resort. And if your Wing Chun and your martial arts overall is really good, you'll never be in that position overall. And that's something that we can talk about later. But I really want to stress to you with that, you know, the responsibility of the punch comes from training properly. And when you get to that point, it's kind of like you'll know when your punch has gotten to that level where you're like, yeah, this is not worth it. This is not a point. This is not something that you show off and do to anybody else. Okay. I guess to talk about back in the day, you know, back in the day, earlies, when people wanted to find out about Wing Chun and stuff like that, it was just simple. I was like, oh, you want to find Wing Chun? Wing Chun is pretty strong. And I'd show them, you know, I get a phone book. If you guys don't even remember what phone books are, phone book, pretty thick yellow pages, right? And then from there, just, you know, punch, you know, no distance, just, you know, just the Wing Chun explosive punch to everybody. And they'll be like, oh, so strong and yada, yada, yada. But I don't even do that. I don't even do that anymore, because even that little tap I know has significant amount that can be done with it, even with the padding involved with that. So I guess the moral of this this video is basically keep practicing. Understand that when you set the goal to physically get the punch, right, to master it eventually. But by training it constantly over and over again, you'll develop that confidence. And when you get that confidence, when you can feel almost like the snap in the air of the punch, and the coordination of your punch with your stance, you'll know right then and there everything's changed. That punch no longer is just a punch that can hit. It's a punch that can change everything with a decision that you made. Okay? So hopefully you understand that. Hopefully that makes sense. Understand the humility that comes with such skill and power. Okay? All right.